when they're looking for a regular girl. You know, when they're, and this is no false modesty, like when they're looking for the bikini to be in the hot tub, they find someone else. You know, there's, I don't know, I mean, the only, advice-wise, I don't think I'm in any position to give any. I went to a grad program, you know, I got a master's, I trained for 3 years doing Shakespeare and Moliere and Mamet and all of that stuff. Maybe it helped, it was great fun, and it certainly made me a better actor. But I think a hell of a lot of it comes down to fairy dust. Yeah.
Hi there, I'm a huge fan of Laurie. Her death scene was one of the most powerful scenes on TV to me personally. I wanted to ask you what you hope Laurie's legacy is, like particularly the positive effects that you want her as a person to have on her son and Rick and the rest of the characters in The Walking Dead.
First of all, thank you. Her legacy. I think Laurie would want her legacy to be one of peace. Laurie wanted a home. She wanted to be a homemaker in the most profound sense. You know, she wanted, Herschel's farm was a dream for her. Let's plant vegetables, let's raise animals, let's educate kids, let's try and pull some sanity out of a world that's on fire. I think her hope would be that Rick and Carl forgive themselves and raise the baby with a sense of possibility. I think her fear was that all the beautiful things in the world would be forgotten. You know, there's that moment when she got pregnant and she was talking to Dale about Carl's going to grow up without a memory of lazy Sunday mornings and being safe and soccer, and the new baby will have none of that. I think Laurie would want her legacy to be one of, you know, find peace at any cost, find a reason not to fight, find a reason to say you're sorry instead of hold a grudge, all of that. It's all kind of mushy nonsense, but I think Laurie from the beginning saw the pregnancy as a death sentence and tried to prepare her husband and her son, and through them her community, not only to live without her, but hopefully to live without the kind of combativeness that started to grow between Rick and Shane, largely because of her. And I think she saw as her greatest failing her inability to make peace between those two men. And I think her hope would be that Rick could make peace instead of end up in a sort of mano-a-mano death match from now on. It doesn't go real well, but that's her hope.
Hello.
Hi.
I was just wondering, I'm sure that you guys had a lot of downtime on set for The Walking Dead, and I was wondering if there was anyone who was a particular prankster or jokester, and if you ever got pranked or joked.
You know, we didn't have much in the way of, like, practical jokes. Stephen Yun is one of the funniest people around. He came from improv comedy, and so he made a lot of people laugh. The other guy that constantly had me in stitches was Andy Rosenberg. He wasn't around for long, but he played Jim. And he's a viciously talented actor and incredibly funny. And he's got the driest sense of humor. And we were shooting something in season 1, episode 5, when they're burning the bodies and stuff. There was this really long, wide shot. Andrea's got Amy on the ground and all this drama. It was baking hot. And I was sitting next to Berthal, who suddenly starts shaking in the middle of a take. And I kind of glanced at him, and he's got his head down, and he's shaking. And I was like, wow, John's having a seizure or something. I don't know what's going on. And as soon as they said cut, he fell on the ground laughing. I was like, what happened? Andy Rosenberg had been behind a truck, off camera, and he just turned to John really quietly and going, I love you. And Andy did that kind of thing all the time. It was virtually impossible to keep a straight face around that guy. He was good fun. So yeah, he's probably my favorite for that. He got John, but good.
I'm a big Walking Dead fan, and I wanted to ask you, how was it to be on the set of The Walking Dead?
Hot. Super hot. And hotter. But great. I mean, really great. Everybody there really wants to be there. It's not always the case, you know, especially with a show that starts to do okay. You can get people with a sense of entitlement who kind of act like divas and whatever. There wasn't any of that. And I love the connections that people made between one another. Scott Wilson and Jeff DeMunn had both been in the business forever and never worked with each other, but they worked with everyone else. And the two of them during season 2 would just sit down in the porch rocking chairs between takes on season 2, like Bartles and James. And they would just sit there in the rocking chairs talking about, oh, I worked with her on the thing, and then she got divorced, and this guy, and he went into rehab. It was the best education that I've ever gotten, just listening to those two talk. Andy Lincoln and John Bernthal, for two men as young, attractive, powerful, and talented as they are, there was never a second of rivalry between them. They made each other better actors, they made each other better men. And it was such an honor to be around people who cared that much about each other. The performances that I see on screen are good. They're really good. But they're nothing compared to the performances that people give me when they're off camera and the camera's on me. We worked harder for each other when it wasn't our shot. I've never seen that before. And that's once in a lifetime. That's phenomenal.
Hi, Sarah. In your opinion, how do you feel the Walking Dead series should end?
How do I feel the Walking Dead series should end? That's a really interesting question. I feel like it's going to be Carol around a campfire, surrounded by a pile of bones, with like a can opener. I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a show that has to end with a whimper, not a bang. Do you know what I mean? This doesn't feel to me, I say this not actually having seen it, but it doesn't feel to me like a World War Z kind of epic, call in the Marines kind of a thing. It seems to me like something that probably ends really quietly. It may end with the virus going airborne. You know, and just a bunch of healthy people waking up one day, looking down at their fingernails rotting, going, oh, I guess that's it then. You know, and be like, well, let's have the last chocolate bar and call it good. I don't know. That's also why I'm not a writer.
Hey, how's it going?
What are you?
I am Nightcrawler from the X-Men.
You're awesome. Okay. Good things.
Just a question, more about acting. It's when you act in something, how do you feel about like when you act and then you see it on like the big screen or the small screen? Do you feel like you portrayed the character the way you felt you acted it, or is it like there's a contrast between being there on set, acting it, and then seeing it on the television?
I'm usually mired in self-hatred. I don't watch my work. Andy actually has never seen the show for that reason, because he's so hard on himself. I watched season 1 because I loved everybody else's work. I've never seen anything I've done and be like, way to go, Sarah. Never, not once. And probably if I ever do, it would mean it's time to get out of the business. I always, you know, I see, this could have been better, I could have done that could have been clearer. But I don't, you know, I watched the first season of Prison Break, I watched the first season of Walking Dead. I stopped after that because I think the danger maybe to any actor, but certainly to me, the danger is that it starts to become about vanity. You know, and you're like, oh, I look really dirty and hot and sweaty and skinny and what on earth? You know what I mean? Like, you start to pick those things apart in your own brain, and it doesn't belong there. It just belongs in the storytelling. And my job is to look at Andy and tell him the truth, and they'll catch on camera what they catch on camera. To spend too much time going over it, just for me, it makes me crazy. John's really good at it. John Bernthal has an amazing ability to watch the whole show and himself and be like, I thought that was great. I wish I had that. I really do. Because I watch it and I just go, it could have been so much better. And I don't need to spend every Monday apologizing to everyone I worked with last week, being like, oh, I totally let you down in that scene, I should have done this. Like, that's a waste of time. So I just watch it and let it go. Andy and I made an agreement that 5 years after the show ends, which at this point I think is probably going to be like around 2015, or not 2015, like 2025. I think they're going to run for a long time. And Andy and I agreed that at some point, 5 years after the show ends, we will sit down together and watch the first 3 seasons together. And hopefully enough time will have passed that we can watch it objectively and be like, God, who are those kids? And enjoy it. By then, we will all be working for Chandler Riggs. He will be owning a studio, hiring everybody. He's going to be a powerhouse.
Any more burning questions out there? If so, here's your chance. And while you guys are thinking, I'm going to ask another one. What is your dream role? If you could play any character, fictional or even real, who would you choose?
You know, again, this is going to seem so irrelevant. There are 2 characters. Well, one's Canadian, so maybe that kind of counts. I've always wanted to play Amy Semple McPherson. At the time she was alive, she was the most famous woman in the world. She was a faith healer. She was born in Ontario. I'm fascinated by the connection between faith and healing. I just think it's a cool story. And most people respond the way you guys are, which is why I haven't gotten anybody to make that movie yet. And increasingly, I'm interested, I can't believe I'm about to say this, I'm increasingly interested in playing a madam. I think there's something really, no, not like that. I think there's something interesting about being the one woman in the room who's not for sale, who owns everyone else. I think a lot of those period dramas, out there, like Deadwood was really interesting. A lot of what they're doing on Boardwalk Empire. I think there's really interesting material out there. And they don't write that many roles for women, so you might as well get a bunch of us together in one show and see how many people we can make uncomfortable at once. I think so far I've got the whole room. Anyone not uncomfortable right now? The guy with the wings in the back, right on there.
What made you move to Canada?
Have you been to Canada?
Go on this process of becoming a Canadian citizen. Usually, Canadian actors go the other way.
I think they got the wrong idea. I mean, I love it here. I worked in Vancouver early in my career, and I am from Hawaii. I'm an island girl. My husband's a mountain boy from Western New York. I got to Vancouver Island and I went, yep. You can surf and ski in the same day. Not that I'm very good at either, frankly, but it's stunning and it's beautiful. I think there's also a culture in Canada of inclusion and inclusiveness and conversation. And I think, I love the US. I do live there part-time. I think things are getting polarized, maybe sometimes in a way that make it very difficult for people to talk and listen to one another. And I've always just felt at home here. I don't know, I love y'all. I love you later. As soon as I get my citizenship, I'm going to tattoo a maple leaf on my shoulder or something.
Time volunteers, what is our time? 4:27, so we're right on time. Well, I think that's probably it. You guys have been fabulous. You had some excellent questions. Thank you so, so much. And let's hear it one more time for Sarah.
Have a good one, Rob.